welcome everyone to TMA and our visitors. Who's a visitor? Who's outside of TMA? Pleased to have you. I'm from Australia. If you're not sure what I'm saying, my English is better than my Vietnamese. I can say thank you and dong, right, and that's about it. Right. So today I'm going to walk through, not too high a level. We'll do some slides, then we'll have some discussion. Okay. For the team leaders, right, understanding how BAs might operate in your project and how to see a BA. Don't look at them like a developer or tester. They have a totally different mindset. BAs are like feral cats. Okay? They don't all line up nicely. They do their own thing. Okay? The art is learning to use them. For project managers, they'll just want to make sure we finish on time each section and move along. BAs, you'll have a lot of questions. If you're a good BA, you want to ask your question tomorrow. It's too late. You've got to ask it today. Okay? So let's have a look at what we're looking at. So we're going to walk through the 5 topics there. And we'll elaborate on some. So, who's a project manager? Any project managers? Yep. Yes, they sneak in everywhere. Yeah, there's always team leads. We've got team leads here as well. Yeah, perfect. And BAs, we've got some BAs. Thank you. Cool. And just general managers. We've got some general managers. Yep. Okay. So nearly every BA has done something else. It's very rare a BA leaves school or university and starts as a BA. That almost never happens. Most of them have had some other job. Right? So they come with a bit of life experience. Oh, thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah. Sorry.
So most BA have had a previous job and they come with some form of life skill. They usually turn up as fully formed adults. Okay, and you know what I mean if you get them just coming out of university. Okay, so they've been in the world a while, they know how companies work, they're okay, and in a professional sense. Usually, their age of entry is late 20s, early 30s. It's unusual, although you do find them, it's unusual to find a BA at about 20, 25. Very rare. And it's to do with the development of the brain. Our brains don't stop growing till we're about 25. By then you've been in the workforce or you've been at university. Then your brain develops. By about 30, you decide the job I'm in is not what I want to do. Right? And that's what you find with BA. So it's not unusual to find 28, 29, 32, 33, 34 is the age of a starting BA. It's a very late career. It's a bit like an astronaut. You won't find an astronaut under 45 years old. Okay? They've got to be around a while. Same for BAs. In 2005, the average age of a starting BA was in the mid-30s. This is in Australia and Europe. So 35-ish. Today, we're finding they're closer to around about 25 to 30. In 10 years' time, it'll probably be the mid-20s. As the profession evolves, the age becomes a bit earlier. But it's all about the development of the brain. So you don't often find BAs under 25. That's pretty unique. But most are about 30 years old. So you're starting a career at 30. right? Most people are well on their career. You're a senior developer, you could be a manager. We're just starting. And we're not senior till we're about 40 years old. I'm looking for retirement by then. But we don't develop till we're about 40. So we start late, seniors 37, 38, 40, about that age range. So when someone walks in my door and goes, I'm senior BA and I'm 28 years old, I go, yeah, sure. Right? You might be good at one thing, but you're not a fully fledged BA. So this helps BAs understand, because a lot of BAs think, how come everyone else has got a career and I don't? It's because we start later. It's one of the very few careers in which there's the same amount of men as there are women. Developers, mainly men. Testers, a bit more females. Business analyst has nothing to do with male-female. It's all to do with how you think. I have no idea how women think, but I know how women BAs think. Right? So the thinking ability of female BAs is equal to and exactly the same as male BAs. It's not about IQ. It's how you solve problems. It's how you communicate. And we tend to find it's one of the very few careers that is equal. So if you went to a bank or the post office, invariably the person serving you might be a female. The tellers may be females. Right? Not so for BAs. Right? We tend to be equally matched. There is no specific training you can give a BA. There's no magic university thing, like to learn to drive a motor scooter, you can teach them. BAs, it's on-the-job training. There's no silver bullet. There's no way to teach you finance or health or e-commerce except by being on a project. And it's scary. Every time a BA goes to a project, it's scary because you may not know the domain. You don't know it. That's what we do. Right? If you can swim, it really doesn't matter how deep the water is. We don't know if we can swim or not, but we jump. Right? Okay? Hopefully someone will teach us to swim. Right? So for us, there's no 4-year course, there's no this or that. All we bring is an adulthood and experience of life. That's it. We start from a blank page. All BAs start from a blank page. You can change jobs and bring experience. That's fine. But most of us, we won't just wake up one morning and we're a BA. We have no idea how we arrived there. We can be 30, we can be 40, and one morning, I just want to be a BA. We don't even know the word BA. Right? So when you're at school, you go, who wants to be a fireman? And half the boys put up their hand. Who wants to be an astronaut? The other half. Right? Who wants to be a housewife at a mum? Half the girls put up their hand. Who wants to be a BA? Right? Not a hand inside. Right? I asked that of my students at uni, my first year students, who wants to be a BA? Right? Everyone thinks it's some sort of development guru. It's not. Then I asked my 4th year. They now know what one is, but no one wants to be one. Right? You don't find jobs. Where do they advertise jobs for BAs? What's the criteria? There isn't any. That's the hard thing about it. Yet all businesses have them. Clients expect you to have them. Right? So here's this magic thing that you've got to have. On-the-job training. That's it. The world of the real world. What about BAs? Well, they are team members, but they are not team players. What do I mean by that? They'll join a team and work on a project. As soon as the project finishes, they'll leave the team. Right? It's a bit like we're all on the boat, but if it's sinking, they're first in the lifeboat. Okay? They work with the team, they're very social, they'll join your team, they'll be part of it. But when the project finishes, in their mind, they'll switch off. They now move on and look for another project. Right? And they might love you in the project and then never talk to you again. Right? It's sort of, I use the analogy, it's like an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend. I love them then, but now I don't want to see them. Okay? That's how they treat projects. So they'll be very close to you, and then they leave. That's the nature of the BA. That's why I compare them to cats. Right? You can get dogs to line up and pull a sled. Try and get two cats to do something. The only thing they'll do is eat if you give them food. Right? They don't do anything else. BAs, they'll join the team, they're part of the team. They'll work with the team, but they are not team members. They live and work for themselves. It doesn't mean they're selfish. They'll just then go to another project and they have to meet new people and they put their head down, they join the team and do the work. It finishes, they turn off, they go to another project and they start again. Right? There's no love for the last one. They move on. So understand the nature of a BA. Developers form teams, testers like teams, PMs like the same team. BAs, we don't care. Any team will do. That's just the nature of our job. Right? And we learn to live with it. People trust BAs. Most BAs are very disarming people. We smile, we ask nice questions, we get to know you. Early on in my career, I had to go and see a company, a bank, and the bank had bought another bank. And they were merging the HR and finance departments within the bank. And so I went along, and the CEO says, "How are you?" I go, "I'm Bernie." He goes, "Right." And I have never seen this guy before in my life. He goes, "Right, let's get to the point. I want to merge those departments and I need to sack 30 staff from each. And other than me, you're the only other person now who knows that." In 3 minutes, I had never met this guy and he told me what he wanted to do. His managers didn't know and the department staff didn't know. My job, what processes did we need? How many people did we need? What roles did we need? Once I worked that out, anyone who didn't fit, he was going to fire. So I went and worked with all these people, excuse me, knowing full well that this side was going to get fired and this side had a job. And I talked politely and nicely. People will tell us things they will not tell anyone else because it's in their interest to achieve the goal. But they will not tell a developer, a tester. They may or may not tell the PM, but they will definitely tell the BA. Right? They will tell you their most horrible secrets. And somehow we keep the secret. It's just the nature of BAs. BAs tend not to be gossipers. I don't run back to the project and go, "Oh, they're going to get fired." Right? We don't. We keep the knowledge and we work our solution according to the knowledge we have. So customers very much trust BAs to some extent more than they will trust a PM. Right? It's just the nature of our job. The downside of that is people often ask a BA, "Why didn't you tell me that? Why didn't you come and tell us they were planning to do that?" And we're like, "I don't know." But that's the nature of our job. People tell us things in confidence, we build a solution with that in mind. And I'll come to it later on and I'll explain how we answer that. There is an answer for it. Also, BAs are not quite up with the job. They're not the smartest people in the room, is what a lot of people think. Because we learn to listen. We then write down and then we think about it. by then the conversation's moved on. So other people are asking lots of questions. We don't start by asking questions, we start by listening. It's of our nature to listen and try and understand, write down what we need to know. Think about it, then we start to ask our questions. So the next day we start to ask questions, or at the end of the meeting, right at the end of it, the BA goes, "Excuse me," and people go, "Have you not been listening to the conversation? Where have you been?" Right? It's because by our very nature, we don't jump in, we don't try and lead. It's not our project, they're not our ideas. They belong to the customer. It's more important I understand how the customer thinks than the customer understands how I think. Right? By that nature, people often look at BAs and go, "They're not that smart, or they're not that quick." But we are consistently consistent, and we get there. But that's part of this. Someone tells you their greatest secret. You're not going to immediately start asking questions. Right? We absorb it, we think about it. Then we think about, am I going to ask a question or not? Am I just going to listen? Right? We do all of that processing before the first question comes out of our mouth. Unlike most other people. Now people go, "Oh, I would pause and think." We do it every day, all the time. Not a conversation with a friend after a soccer match, not down at a restaurant. We do it every day, all the time. It becomes second nature for us not to jump in. We learn to wait. Then we read body language. We read the way the person's reacting before we answer. Okay? So don't confuse our delay as not being with the program. Oh, we're with the program, but in our own way. We're not like developers and testers. Our brains are more like an artist or a sculptor. We have to take an idea in a business person's head, and we have to give it to developers and testers such that that reflects that idea. It's a bit like saying, "I want a painting of," or "I want a sculpture of." It's all in this person's head, how they communicate it. Right? So for us, we're more like an artist than we are IT. Right? A lot of us have come from IT, developers and testers. But as our brain matured, we moved across to the creative side. I'm not saying developers and testers aren't creative, they are very skilled. Right? But we're closer to these people than we are to IT. Okay, so on that part there, about our intellectual process or about understanding how we become a BA. Any questions? People want to ask questions, thoughts, discussions? All right. Now they're all like BAs.
There are lots of people in the community and outside the community who are being a tester, and now they want to change their role to become a BA. But then you said that you have no university, no training center, so that we can learn to become a BA. So what are the advices for the tester who want to become a BA?
Yeah, you can start talking to BAs, look for BA jobs, talk to people who are BAs, right? Try and find out what they do. And these are some of the characteristics you find BAs have, right? And so when you interview or talk to them, watch for those characteristics. They immediately jump in with questions, because BAs don't do that. Okay? So it's a process. In the end of the day, A person who's brand new and starts as a BA takes about 4 to 6 months before they've realised I've not made a mistake. The first 4 weeks of your life as a BA is horrible. You go, oh my God, what have I done? Right, I was in a good job. I was getting paid. Now I've come to this, and I don't know any of it. Okay? There's no way through that. And you turn up to work, you get given a task, and it's like it takes 8 hours to do it. Right? It just takes forever. It's horrible. So BAs, this first 4 months when they actually come across, most of them think they've made a horrible mistake. Right? Because they don't know what to expect. Right? And it's on-the-job learning. A lot of them think, I'll go into a classroom and I'll get a couple of months training. There isn't any. It's not that we don't want to. It's the real world. You have to learn on the job. Like driving a motor scooter. At some point, you need to go on the road. Right? There's no substitute for that. Will you fall off? Probably. Usually in the wet. But once you get used to it. So the first 4 months for new BAs is horrible. An experienced BA goes to a new project. The first 2 or 3 weeks are also horrible till you settle down and understand. So the answer to it is, it's like I said before, you just jump in the water. If you can swim, great. If you can't, someone will pull you out. But there is no pre-criteria. I can tell at an interview, but I've been doing this for 30 years, I can tell at an interview whether someone's a BA or not. I can tell that straight away. I don't know why. I should write it down. It's just years of doing it. It's like a coder. A coder can read code and go, that's not right. They know it's not right. A PM can go, this project's getting off track, but I can't point to any one thing. I just know it's getting off track. That comes from years of doing it. Right? So the answer is you start. Right? It's very unusual to find someone jumps in and doesn't make it. If they leave, because we're an IT BA company in tech. In fact, most of us here in the park are IT. Usually if they leave, they will go to somewhere like a bank or retail or commerce and be a BA. It's just they're not IT-centric, but most testers are. Right? So you find different sorts of BAs. But yeah, I wouldn't worry. I mean, I wouldn't, but if I was them, I would. But at some point, something in their mind says, I can't continue to do this job, and that's the job I want to do. Right? And so they just try it. Right? But 6 months, give a new BA 6 months, not 2 weeks, not 4 weeks. Right? It takes a long time to learn a new career. Right? Just the basics, projects, working with people, and you're getting little bits of work, and it takes them all day, and you go, oh God, I could have done that in an hour. No, that's how they learn. The fact they're older, don't assume they know more. They don't. Right? They just don't know. Any other questions?
So not sure if you have it down on your slide, but I just ask. So what are the most essential skills that you think a BA should have, or someone to become a BA should have?
We'll come to it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so shall we move on to the next piece? Oh, yes.
No question. I'll leave the micro. So just want to know what is a BA in terms of definition, and what is his or her job in an organization?
Good question. Okay, that's exactly what we're going to deal with next. What value do they bring? What are they? So we know what sort of beast they are. What value, what do they perform? What's expected from them? Yep, definitely we will cover that. So we'll move on. Oh, sorry, beg your pardon? Yep.
So, in the very first slide of your presentation, so I see a lot of people from different backgrounds can turn to be a PA, right? So, to me, I think a lot of people have the same concern to me that between the developer and the investor, so who can turn to be a PA more easily?
Are you a PM?
Not really.
They come from all walks of life. Developers and testers tend to drift to be BAs in IT, but bus drivers have become BAs in banks. Okay, analysts in the stock market are BAs, financial analysts, right? There are different. You can become a BA in health, nothing to do with IT. Acquisition and mergers of companies require BAs. Business cases are usually written by BAs, right? They might be in the form of a manager or someone else, but it's all about the business analysis. So they come from all walks. What's important is that they have those common characteristics about how they think, how they act, right? All of that is what they have in common, regardless of where they come from. So we've just got some new BAs started at TMA. Some have come from marketing, some have come from banking, some have come from IT, right? Most will come from a professional service. They could be insurance, right? Places like that. They could be a non-professional job, a mechanic, a bus driver, a shopkeeper, right? At some point, they wake up one morning and go, I'm not what I am, I'm actually one of these. Right? Because no BA actually knows how they arrived at being a BA. They can tell you their career, but they don't know how they got here. They just woke up one morning and that's what they were. So, are developers or testers better? I'm not sure. I wouldn't have thought there would be much different. And I would think it would apply to males and females equally. Right? So the answer is, I'm not sure, except from all my years, they come from all sorts. A lot from dev and IT. Very rarely do you get a PM. They tend not to become BAs. Their mindset is just so different. Right? In fact, they're almost the opposite of a BA. Right? They're about delivery, about dates, about organisation. We're similar, but we're not looking at the project. We're looking at the requirements. We don't care if the project's early, late. Doesn't worry us. We want to make sure we've got the right requirements. That's what we're after. So yeah, I don't know if that's helped answer the question, but I'm not sure there is a black and white answer. Okay, we'll just do the next one and then we'll stand up and have a question and a walk around. So what value do we bring in outsourcing projects? Okay, our role, we don't live in science and we don't live in society. We're the bridge between business and science. So business are the people who want the changes, they want the application, they want the process improvement. These are the people who execute the tool that will bring it about in the form of an app or a better process. It doesn't always have to be IT, but because we're in the technology part, I focused on IT, right? So we're the people who live in the middle, right? So we're not really part of IT, but we're not part of business. And often you hear the statement, BAs are failed developers or poor business people. It's because we don't live in either world. Right? And I think that's why the reputation of the BA is a lot lower than other career professionals. But it's a learning curve. We're fairly new. We're only about 200 years old as a career, and only about 40 to 50 years old as an IT analyst career. The before then, till about the mid-60s, IT was the domain of developers, and then testers, and then finally BA, once we broke down computers to use as businesses. Before then, they were mainly in the military. Right, that was my background, military health. I did all mine in the military. Right, but today, right, computers are a normal business tool. But we don't live, BAs don't live in either world, which is why they can join a project and then drop it. Or join a project for a business and at the end of it, they don't care. Right. We don't live in either world. We're one of the very few careers and professions that aren't one or the other. Okay, someone asked a question about our role and stuff like that. Right. What's the value of a PM or developer or tester in an outsourcing project? Well, you've got to make sure the product's right. It works. Right? So you focus on getting it right. That's not what BAs do. We're focusing on making sure it's the right product. I don't care if the product is bug-free. Is it what the customer wanted? And you can develop a bug-free solution and the customer goes, well, that's not what I want. But if you develop the right product, the one the customer wants, if it's full of bugs, they will go, I don't care, let's use it. We can sort the bugs out later. Right? And that's what happens in the market. When there's lots of money around, businesses do lots of projects. They hire developers and testers and PMs. But when the stock market crashes and there's a global collapse, all the projects get shelved. Stop the project. Guess who gets a job? Because they say to us, we can't finish the product, I want you to come in now to my organisation and make it more efficient. We were going to use product X, but we can't, how can we make this happen without product X? Right? So BAs get a job on the business side. And then when there's lots of money, the business starts its projects again. So then we just move across to the other side. Right? So the important difference to understand in projects is we make sure we get the right product, but developers and testers make sure the product's right. That subtle difference defines the role of a BA. And to know if the product's right, we have to know what they wanted. Right? Only once we know what they want can we now guarantee developers, testers and project managers can deliver the right product. So, everyone would agree, I would not send them to combat in one of those. Okay? It looks fairly obvious here. And the family up the road from you, who have one of these, you would start to worry about. Okay? Because just looking at it, you go, but this is wrong. And this is wrong. That's what we do. We look at it and we go, this is not right. I don't know why it's not right, but it's not right. Developer will go, but we coded exactly what was written. And the tester goes, and it works. And I go, yeah, but I can tell you, it's not going to work. Right? So we have different perspectives. Okay? We're about making sure it is the right product. Developers and testers are making sure the product's right. That subtle difference is where we differ. Right? It's very subtle, but that's the whole world of the BA. Is this right? Not, does it work? Right? That's what developers and testers will work out. Does it work? And if this one matches them, and this one matches them, I'm happy. And if there are some, if there are some bugs in here, we've left out the spare wheel, or the steering wheel's on the wrong side, I can live with that. The customer can live with it and change it. But if you give the soldiers this, it doesn't matter what you do, you cannot save the project. You're doomed. Right? So that's the subtle difference. So we are all about the right product, but they're about the product being right. Okay? It doesn't mean we disagree. It doesn't mean anything like that. In fact, a good project, both sides balance. And the role of the PM is to make sure we get these two done on time, in budget, for the right requirements. That's their role. But often projects tend to this, and they miss this part. Personally, I think projects, particularly IT ones, without BAs, are always at risk of only that and not that. Sometimes you don't need a BA if it's an enhancement to an existing program. That's fine. But when they start new ones, or they have an old system, they want to build a brand new system, right? If you don't have this person to represent that view, then you will get into trouble. Okay, how do you get the right product? Okay, some of the things we've got at. Effective communication. BAs, we specialise in the art of communicating. Right? We're very good at that. We learn different cultures. You work with a US-based team, you work with an Australian team, work with Korea, work with Europe, they're all different. We just slot into the project like the cat we are. We learn how it works, we do it, and then we exit. So we learn different shared cultures, different teams, even in TLA here, even in your companies. Your IT teams have different cultures that works different ways. We all do. We have to use efficient BA practices. I'll come to some of those later. Okay. BAs just don't make it up. Okay. Over the years, we've worked out what works and what doesn't work. Okay. We know the good practices, and we follow certain tried and true methods. So developers know what a pattern and what an anti-pattern is. Okay. Testers know there's no point having the test case if you don't have the right data. Okay. We also know there are certain ways to do something. If you do it that way, it works. If you do it another way, it will fail. So if you think you can just take someone, and I'm not picking on, if the PM thinks he can be a DA, or the developer, or the tester, their mindset is not the same as ours. They don't know the basic models we use. So they increase the probability the project is doomed, yet they think they're doing the right thing. Also, we don't have to do all the work in an outsourcing project. The client might have done most of the work. We've just got to do a little bit at the top. BAs don't have to be full-time in the project. It depends how much information the client gave you, and therefore how much work your business analyst has got to do. It could be just a few weeks and 12 weeks that you need it. Or it could be for the whole project. Or, and this is something that IT struggle with this idea, there are projects where the BA starts before the project starts. Is on the project finishes, and the BA continues on the project. Right? we can go longer than the project. So a customer wants to build a brand new system. They need a hand just to understand the requirements, to put in the business case, to understand how big the project is. They'll get a BA in. They will this is what outsourcing I'm talking about. They will get one of your BAs to come in. They will help build all the requirements, work out how long the project is. Then the project starts and the BA shifts to the project because they're the one with all the knowledge. They stay through the project, and there could be requirements coming. It could be a multi-stage project, whether it's agile, hybrid, waterfall, it's irrelevant. We don't care what methodology you use. Then the project's delivered. The BA stays afterwards for training, for post-delivery bug fixing. Well, they don't fix the bugs, they investigate. And they help the developers fix it. Then it goes into support mode. And then the company goes, right, let's get on with stage 2 of the project. And the BA just stays on it. I've seen BAs on projects for 5 or 6 years, and to give you an extreme example of one is NASA. People have whole of life projects. The Large Hadron Collider, 32 years people worked on that. The Hubble telescope, 16 years, one project, right? I'm thinking I like 3 or 4 a year, okay? You're going to sign up for a project for 16 years. That is a long time. So from our point of view, how much are we involved? Well, it depends what stage the project at and how much the customer's done. But as a BA, be prepared in an outsourcing to understand the following rule. You may have to go to the client. You may have to get up, get on an aeroplane and fly somewhere. It's not common. Developers and testers do that. Sometimes PMs do it early on. But BAs, it is a common way of life. Okay? There is usually a catch with that. It is unusual to send females with little children. Okay? We tend not to do that anywhere in the world. Solo dads, solo mums, you tend not to get sent. Okay? So just understand that because you're a BA doesn't mean you're going to get sent. But BAs are the highest group of people who are sent overseas on projects. We are by far more than 50% of the group of people sent. Right? We travel back and forward more than anyone else does. Yep, so that's just a little bit on what value we bring to an outsourcing project. So just to look at some of that just quickly again before we have questions. Our role, we sit in between. Our role is to make sure we have the right product, that everything is leading towards the holistic solution. And often BAs will say, this isn't right, and everyone will go, according to the plan it is. Right up till you get to UIT. And the customer goes, I didn't ask for that. All right? The first port of call is usually a BA. Make sure you get it right. Communication, we'll look at those in the next period. In an outsourcing project, you might only have a little bit of work, or you have lots of work. And in some outsourcing projects, there's an expectation from the customer that at the end of the project, when they start the next one, they will get the same lead developer and tester, but they will always want the same BA. Because they're the only one who has all the knowledge. Right. Customers hate it if you change the BA. They can live with developers changing, they don't like it. They can live with that. But they hate it if you change the BA. So, questions on just this part about outsourcing, because we'll have a break, but then we'll deal with, as a BA, what must you know? What's in this Bible kit? How do you get certified, and some best practices. So any questions so far on that next section?
So we not automatically assign BA to the project. So only when the project manager thinks that they need a BA, and they send a request to the BA team.
Yep.
So what are the guidelines for the project manager that they, in this project, they should get a BA involved, or no need BA?
Yeah, so the first thing you should do on those projects is actually consult, and I'm assuming companies have what we call a BA practice. Right? So normally BAs don't live in teams. They live in a little group by themselves, and they are a shared service actually given out to projects. So what you should do, all projects, when you start to do the proposal, you start to cost them up. Your question should be, do I need a BA or not? And you should answer that question. The answer might be no, but it might also be yes. Some customers say, well, we'll do all the BA requirements, so you don't need one. Right up till the developer reads the first line of the requirements and goes, I don't get it. Or where's this? Or where's that? BAs don't think like developers. They think like business people. So you've got now 40 or 50 pages of requirements. You've not costed a BA in, and the developer goes, I don't get this. It's missing. Of course it's missing stuff. They're business people. They don't understand how the engine works. They just get in the taxi and they ask the guy to drive. They have no idea how the engine works. So when you go, do you want diesel or petrol? The passenger goes, I don't know. Why are you asking me that question? I go, well, it matters to get the car to move. So, well, I don't care about the car, just get me to the airport. I go, well, we can't get you there till we know if it's petrol or diesel that's going to run the car, because the car's not moving. Right, we've got to put fuel in it. The customer never thought of that. So initially, when you do your proposals, do I need a BA in my outsourcing team? The customer will tell you, they've done all the requirements. They have, but they haven't looked at it from an IT point of view. And remember, we sit in the middle. We sit in between. So when the developer is asking all the questions about requirements and the customer goes, I can't believe this. We have spent months on these requirements. How is it you do not understand them? Because that's the BA's job, to interpret for the IT people that which they don't understand. So think about it before you rush into a proposal and go, I only need developers and testers and they have to be Java or they have to be Angular or something. Ask the question, do I need an interface? Oh, that's okay, that can be the project manager. No, that can't be. Their job, on time, on cost, right, scope and quality. That's their job. And they will deliver a product that is right, but they won't deliver the right product. So ask yourself that question, and the bigger the project, right, the ratio is 1 BA to about 10 to 12 staff on a project. So an agile team of about 15 people with a Scrum Master would have 1 BA. Right? But if the team is about 20 people, then you're looking at about 2 BAs. The problem with not having any is that's funnel through which all the requirements come. You've just bottlenecked your project, because only one person is interpreting hundreds of pages, and there are 5 developers and 4 testers waiting, and they can't do anything. You've created your own project bottleneck. It's better to have them early on. Once you understand what you have to do, you can drop from 2 to 1. And even the 1 could become a half. But now all your team is busy. They're all doing something. So often projects are bottlenecked right at the start because they don't have the BA who asks the correct question. right? The developer will ask the question, but he asks it in a technical way. Do you have petrol or diesel? And the business goes, I don't know what that question is. The BA will go, look, if you want to get the car to the airport, it needs fuel. And you've omitted to tell us. So you've got a choice, electricity, petrol or diesel. Now we think petrol would be best. What do you think? The customer will go, yeah, right, okay, good, yeah, whatever, get it there. Right? So that's the sort of what the BA brings, that sort of subtlety to a project. They just don't sit there and say to the customer, well, we got no idea either. You hire the BA to interpret the requirements. So the BA just says, do you want petrol or diesel? He's no help to you. Right? He has to get the customer to understand and answer the question. Right? Otherwise he just looks like a developer or a tester. Their role is to go in and use their skills to get the answer to that question and help the customer understand why I'm asking this question. That's what we do. So does that help answer the question? So all projects, when you propose them, you put up a costing of people, you must think about why I don't have one. I'm not saying you have to have one, don't get me wrong. Not every project requires one. The bigger the project, the more you're at risk. If it's a new project, great. If it's the third phase of an existing website build, you might not need it because the team knows enough. And it's a small project. Ratio about 1 to 10 to 12, but then it's about 1 to 10. So if you've got a project with 50 developers and testers, you need a minimum of 5 BAs. Okay, otherwise you're going to be pulling those people out of their work to deal with the customer who doesn't think like them. Right? They think like business people. That's the role of the BA, to do that and make sure we get the information according to when the PM says we need the information. Right? That's their role. Any other questions? Yes, by all means.
So in the case of where the developer and tester, they deliver the right product from their build, but then the customer eventually say that no, it's another right. No, that's not the right product, right? So from your experience, 30 years including the red area of BA, so what is the common and popular mistake or problem that bring to the problem? Yep. I guess that maybe the best communication between the different part of the community should be the problem, but maybe you're concerned about that.
The number one problem customers cause this, and we cause ourselves in projects, is our change management control is poor. We allow scope creep. Oh, you just wanted this extra field. You just wanted to do it this way. Scope creep kills the product. Right? It may not be architectured, it may not be developed, and it certainly hasn't had the requirements thought about. It is often scope creep or changes, and scope creep can be two ways. It can be either more, or even worse, well, let's not do that one now. We go, great, we've got to do less. This is wonderful. Right? No one goes back and changes the architecture, we code without it. Then a year later the customer says, I want that. And you go, yeah, no problem. And then you go, whoops, it doesn't fit anywhere. This is a massive, this isn't a slight change control. This is a massive thing. And the customer goes, no, hold on. When we took it out last year, I only took 10,000 off the budget. You are now telling me this is 150,000 to put back in. And you go, yes. Okay, so change control, right, is what often kills the UAT or discovery things wrong, mixed with a failure to prototype early on, a failure to feedback where we are. I'm not talking about project status. Project status is project status. I'm talking about showing the customer what it is they think they're going to get. We have a tendency to go, great, so in 3 months, you can come and UAT it. Why? What about some prototype screens early on, even if they're in a PowerPoint? What about showing them some of what they're going to get? What about starting to tell them, this is the information that will be in the drop-down, you need country, right? But over here, you need to make a choice between this and this. So, simple one, very simple one. Do you want male, female, right, on the thing? Or do you want girl and boy, or man and woman, or other, right? Simple things, right? Tell them early. So, prototype. So we tend not to do it. We tend to rush to the answer. Right? And then the customer goes, yeah, you developed what I wanted, but it's not really what I wanted. Right? Because as soon as you show them something, their mind changes. Right? As soon as you see something, your mind changes. And if people don't think that's so, it's no different than when you date someone. You first see her and go, wow, isn't she gorgeous? Then after 2 months' time, I meet you and go, how's your girlfriend? Don't you don't want to know. Yeah, don't want, she was gorgeous. Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, you just don't want to know. Okay? Because you find out things that I didn't see when I just looked at it and I went, right? Same thing, right? Customers do the same. They look at it and go, yep, and then you show them the prototype and go, not so sure now. So early prototyping, but bad change control is the commonest killer of a bad product. Right? And change control comes in 2 forms. Scope creep and the customer thinking they're helping by taking something out. If they're going to take something out, you may have to engineer stubs. You may have to change the architecture. You may spend more taking it out than leaving it in. Right? So consider that. So does that help answer the question? Because that's when the BA now has got to go off and do all that work about the change control. You know, what is this requirement? But projects creep things in. Right. If you don't pass it through the PM, so there should be a steering committee and a PM approval, before you approve it is the question, what is the impact? And that requires development, testing and the BA. Right. Because if it's not your finished product, right, you're in trouble. Some other questions?
Yeah. BAs, as you have proven that are beneficial to projects. However, as you know, everything should have 2 faces, 2 sides. So how about BAs? Is there any disadvantages or downside when a BA gets involved in a specific project?
Sorry, gets involved in what project?
Get involved in a specific project. Specific.
So what is the disadvantage when a BA try a project?
Yes.
Yeah.
In a specific project.
Yeah.
Or when they join one.
A specific project.
A specific project?
Yeah. The downside,
Yeah, so the question is, what is the disadvantage?
Yeah.
For us, it makes no difference.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We go and join projects. We pick up wherever the project is. We've got to get up to speed. We have a very, you can sit if you want to, we have a very acute learning curve. It's very stressful for us, okay? But that's what we do. We don't like it. We like nice, plain, timely thing. But yes, we get inserted into one. We've got to pick it up running. We've got to learn on the fly. You're a paid professional. This is what we chose for a living. And it's one of the downsides of the job, is that you get pushed into a project that's going wrong, you just get inserted, but that's what we are. Doctors don't go, I'm only going to work on patients who are healthy. So if you've had a car accident, I'm not going to see you. They don't. Whatever comes in the door, they're yours. We're the same. Right? Not all projects are Christmas time or tech time. Some projects we just get chucked in and it's 10-hour days, and for a week you go, this is just terrible. That's what we do. Yeah. Does that sort of answer the question?
Actually, when we are a BA project, we usually meet the situation that people blame on the BA. This is because this fact is because of the poor requirement definition, something like this, and everything. Most of the troubles are what BA causes.
Yeah, that's true. We do get blamed. Right? That won't change. That will be so. Suck it up and move on. Okay? What are you going to do? Have an anti-blame me campaign? It's not going to work. The point is we've got a problem. It may have been the requirements being misunderstood. It may not. The question isn't that. The question isn't root cause. The question is the clock is ticking. What am I doing tomorrow to fix this problem right now? I can do root cause later. Right? But how am I going to fix it? You will get blamed. Yes, you will. Right? But that will happen. And often the requirements that come through are ambiguous. They're not ambiguous to us, but they're ambiguous to other people. Just accept it happens. It's not always our fault, but if you blame us enough, we'll accept anything. Okay? And that's what happens. Right? We do get blamed. Right? It's not always our fault, and sometimes it is. That's just how it is. Right? We don't like it, but that's what will happen. You will screw up. Okay? You will, at some time in your career, get something horribly wrong, and you just want to die and go home. Okay? That will happen. Until it's happened to you, you can't really understand how it's going to happen to someone else. Okay? But it will happen. Developers write bad code. Testers pass tests with the wrong data. It happens. That's just how it is. With the best of intention in the world, with the best laid plans, right, you are going to get things wrong. Except, well, it's not a perfect job. Being a business analyst is creative. There's no such thing as a perfect painting, right? There's no such thing as a perfect architecture. It just is functional. And sometimes it's not functional. Just sometimes it's wrong. And yep, you get the blame. And it feels horrible. And you have to fix it up. And that's just how it is. Yep. There's no nice, your mummy's not going to come and give you a cuddle and an ice cream or Ken time and send you away. You're an adult, it happens. We don't like it, but it happens. And most times, the customer will blame us, even if it's their fault. Okay? That's part of outsourcing. The PM will try and defend it. The developers will try to defend it. We will try and defend it. Who cares? The customer's going, this is what I want. Right? So now we've got to move. BAs, we'll get all bitter and twisted and we'll cry and all that, but we will move quicker than anyone towards the new solution. Others will still be moaning. Developers will be moaning a week later. We'll have already moved on. That's the nature of being a BA. We're used to a lot of criticism. If you're not, you don't make it. Right? It's just how it is. Yeah. Any more? Or we'll take a little break. Oh, sorry, one more.
Thank you, Mr. Bernie. Following the previous question, I want to ask, for me, the time for BA, sorry for my strong language, BA is like a bunch of a-holes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. But as a PM, as a team leader, and also a developer, I also think now my view of the VA, of your role in the project is now more open. For me, I just worked also in many teams, but it's not worked perfectly.
Yep.
It's not smooth. It's stuck some gap between VA, PM, developer, tester. I don't think it's from full chain management control you have just mentioned. I think if you can share the most awkward moment you have with teams, and also the lead team, the left team, they don't want you in the team. You can share.
Yep.
Okay.
No, you're absolutely right. PMs and developers and testers see BAs quite differently. And this is why I constantly say BAs are like cats. They do their thing. They're part of the team, but they don't always fit the team. Right? So they sometimes help, and they sometimes help in an unhelpful way. Right? So coming back to that then, it's about how you manage them, but because they're a new type of service within a team, it takes a while for people to learn how to use them. So for me, I've had projects where you've had to sack BAs off the project, get a new one in, and grovel to the client, and you lose 3 or 4 weeks worth of work and start again. Yep, that's happened. Right? It's just the nature of the person and the people that you sometimes have. So they're not always the best, but there are some downsides that BAs have. They can be very stubborn. They can believe they're right. But also, they've got to understand they don't own the requirements. Because they put a lot of effort into it, they think these are my requirements. They're not yours, they're the customer's requirements. You're just writing them. Imagine if every artist who painted a painting said, that's my painting. No, it's not. It belongs to whoever bought it. You just painted it. So some BAs are arrogant. They believe they know a domain better than the customer. Right? They have this sort of understanding that without them the world is doomed. Okay? Usually with them the world is doomed. Right? So different personalities. A lot of them that get senior, right, have this arrogance with them that needs to be clipped, right? You don't so much see it. I don't see it in the Asian BAs. You will see it a lot in Australian or American BAs. This I'm right attitude, right, which just annoys the rest of the team. Okay, so the 2 biggest reasons BAs will get fired from a project. Number 1, they don't communicate appropriately with the client or the team. And number 2, they don't fit the culture of the team or the client. It has nothing to do with their workability. Nothing whatsoever. Bill Gates would get fired. Steve Jobs would get fired if he can't communicate or he doesn't fit the culture of the team. That's not a skill, that's a personal thing you have to bring to the project. And this is why we get used to slotting into different projects. We quickly read the culture of it and fit, or we're out. And the team will kick them out, right? Teams know BAs that don't fit. BAs know they just don't fit. And you talk to them 3 weeks into a project and they go, they're just weird lot of developers down there. They're just a funny team. That tells me straight away they're not fitting the culture. That tells me the requirements aren't going to be that good because they just want to do a job now and get out there. Okay? They just want to produce and go. Right? They'll do the minimum possible to get over the line. Okay? So now we're seeing the negative side. So yeah, you see that in VAs. Absolutely you do. Equally so, as Tri said before, or he asked the question, we get blamed for a lot, that we haven't justifiably been guilty of. So from a PM point of view of a project, you have to watch two ways. Make sure the BA is doing the correct work and fits the team. Make sure they're communicating correctly. The quality in that, that's a separate issue. But if you can handle the two of them, are they fitting the culture of the team and the customer? Are they communicating? Are they talking? Are they coming to our team meetings? Are they engaging? Do they go to lunch with the team? Or are they sitting up in the office by themselves? Do they go to the coffee shop and bring back coffees for the team members? Or do they only bring back coffees for themselves? Are they fitting the culture? Watch for that, because that will lead you to understand whether you have a good, productive BA or just a body doing just a job. Because the latter one will get you into trouble. Does that help? Yeah. Okay, well let's just stretch legs and that. Thank you. Okay, what must a BA know? Okay, so I'm just going to do some very basic things. There's only 4 ways you can document anything. You can use textual like Word, for example. You can write up words. You can make tables, X by Y and charts and stuff like that. You can use a diagram, which is a diagram is a static picture. Or you can use models like activity diagrams or flow charts, where when you read, you're reading more than just the picture, right? So a picture's a picture, so that's a picture, up there it's a map, right? But one of Ho Chi Minh City, to get somewhere, is actually a model, because you read more than the map. You'll look at how to get somewhere. So a map of a city is not a diagram, it's a living model. So activity flow charts, process flows, you read it, and you get more information. But a picture of Mona Lisa is exactly that. It's a picture of Mona Lisa. You don't get to know anything more. So everything a BA will document will be in one of these 4 ways. Usually a graph is considered a diagram because it's static, right? It's a fixed picture. So everything you'll do as a BA, think about it. You're only going to do it one of these 4 ways. Right? An interface is a model. A picture of an interface, how a computer screen. It's a model because when you look at it, you're not looking at the diagram, you're looking at the buttons, the flows, your brain's working. Yeah, that one would go to this screen. How do I do this? And where do I enter that? It's a model. So everything we do, you're only going to document it one of 4 ways. You may have to document something more than one way. There are different audiences who need to see different things. So just because I've documented it one way doesn't make it appropriate for everybody. So if I'm building screens to show a flow, I might have a flow chart for the manager of departments to see how the logistic works and how information flows. But for the secretary and the call centre, they want to see what the screens look like. That's what they're going to be touching. So you may have to use all 4 of them to document something. Just because you document it one way doesn't make it appropriate for everybody. So you've got lots of different stakeholders you have to keep happy. So you might write up a whole document. For example, it could be a use case. And then someone asks you to model 3 or 4 use cases. Then someone else says, well, let's get the screens together and have a look at those. But they're all the same thing. They're just presented differently. So as a BA, get used to the fact you may have to model something more than one way and document it more than one way. That's normal. But everything you do will be one of those 4. There are 8 techniques that you will earn a living from. You've got to learn to read documents and analyse them. This is not a Harry Potter novel. You have to learn to interpret anything you read. You have to learn to build and understand prototypes. You have to learn the art of asking a question. It sounds so simple. We'll come to that later on about how to ask a question. You go, what? I'm a paid professional and you're going to tell me how to ask a question? Yes, because we ask more questions than anybody. That's our job. We've got to find out information. We should be the best question askers in the world. We've got to learn how to work a workshop when you're gathering requirements or solving a problem or working a process. How do I engage lots of people at once? Right? Workshopping is a difficult art. Why? Because I'm trying to work here, those two are asking questions, this guy's on the phone, and that one down the end says it's got nothing to do with him. I have to try and manage all of you. Then it gets worse. You're not even in the same room. You're on Skype, at least you're on a telephone. Right? It's difficult. You learn the art of a workshop. Learn to draw process maps. Why do you draw a map? Why would you draw a process? Anyone know? Why do we draw out processes? Because it's the easiest way to see what's missing. You're looking for what's missing. If I write hundreds of words in a doc, you can't see I missed something. But if I draw a diagram, start here, go here, decision box, do this, do that, I can maybe go, hold on, where's this? Where's that? You draw processes to see what is missing. What have I not understood? Right? So we draw processes so everybody understands, and then people can go, I don't see this, or is that right? We don't draw them because they're a process. We draw them to get collective agreement. It is complete. Right? So people go, oh, but I've written it all up in a document. How am I going to read a document looking for something that's not there? Right? It's so hard to read, to look for something that isn't there. It's like a detective novel. You don't know till the last page who did it. Right? You're all the way through the book. Right? Once you know who did it, it's obvious. Right? So we don't write detective novels. We're trying to communicate. A process flow, whether it's an activity diagram or a simple map, is all about what is wrong and what is missing. That's why we draw them. They don't have to be sophisticated. They can be on a whiteboard, you take a photo and you send it through. Interface analysis. In this case, I'm talking about a computer screen because there's two sorts of interfaces. There's the electronic data exchange. So in this case, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a computer screen. The ability to look at it and analyse it. Is this the best flow? Is things in the right place? Do they make sense? Is data collected together? Interview. Now, what's the difference between an interview and a meeting? No, an interview is with one or two people. If there's a third person, you have a meeting. Why? Because while I'm talking to one, the other two will talk. So an interview can only be with one or two people. In an interview, and I know it's a strong word, but an interview is a way of asking questions. So I interview a customer, or I interview a client, or I interview someone. It can be through instant messaging, it can be through Skype, it can be a phone call. Don't mind how you do it. The thing is, you've got to learn to control that meeting. So the question is, do I have what I needed when I started this conversation? And so often, a VA will finish a 10-minute conversation on Skype with a client and they still don't know the answer that they originally booked the meeting for. Right? And I go, how could you have done that? You have to learn to control your, but they're the client, they're the customer, they're the manager. So I don't give a damn. I don't care. Your job is to get the information off them. And I'll tell you, they don't see themselves as managers or customers. You ask them a question, I'll come back to you. They are more than happy to give you the information. Right? But learn the art of asking. So 2 people together, any more than 2, you will not achieve your objective. Right? You will partially achieve it. So you can send through. You say, I book an appointment. I go, rightio, I've got an appointment with you in 2 days. Here's some questions I'm going to ask. Perfectly acceptable. Then you can say, hi, I'm Bernie, hi, how are you? Right, look, just speed up time, first question, blah, blah, blah. You can put context in, but normally you would explain the context. So often interviews are verbal. It's not an interview if it's a mail back and forward. But an instant messaging, even though it's not verbal, is a type of interview because it's interactive right now. I'm texting you, you're typing back. I'm typing, you're typing back. That's the same as an interview. And finally, brainstorming. VAs are creative, right? You're expected to come up with solutions. So I'll give you an example of problem solution. Architects. The view of architects, every release is a big bang. That's it. Every release is a big bang. You go, no, we want a phased release. No, it's got to be a big bang. Every architect will tell you straight away, every release, big bang. Only when you think it through, well, maybe we will release this first and this first. So if it's a big bang, how do I teach all the users to use it? Oh, okay. And how do I get all the data shifted across? Oh, okay. Or perhaps we'll just do one state first, or one country first, or one department first, and then we'll educate them. Oh, okay. That's a form of brainstorming. Right? How am I going to solve the problem? How am I going to break it down? Right? There's always more than one solution. We're trying to pick not the best solution. We're trying to pick the optimal solution that suits the problem for educating users, for our IT department, for staging and releasing. We're trying to pick the best. And we do it in collaboration with the PM, the developers and testers. Okay? But don't go along to a release meeting and go, I'm a BA. There are no requirements in the release meeting. I don't have an input. Yeah, you do. Right? So if everyone said, let's do a big bang solution, you go, yeah, that sounds good, till you go, well, what about, how do we train 1,500 users in a big bang solution? Right? How do we do that? So all these issues you bring to the party. But those 8 techniques, learn to get them down pat like driving a motor scooter. You should know these. These are what we are now living on. Right? Every time I talk to a customer, it is a type of interview. Right? I draw process maps not because they're pretty, because I'm trying to find what I'm missing. And if I share it with other people, they'll tell me what's missing. Right? So learn to master your toolkit. Now this is what's interesting. If I'm a developer, I've probably got Studio Pro, or I've got some other fancy things, or if I'm a tester, I've got juror or quality. BAs, we live in the world of Microsoft Office. Right? We don't need anything fancy. We don't need exotic software. Right? The hardest thing BAs can't do, they don't know how to number and do headings. They spend hours. They've written the document. Now that takes them 1 day. Then it takes them 3 days to put the numbering in. Okay? Learn about styles. Learn about it. Go get a book, read it, go to a course. Become the master of your tool. Right? It's like borrowing someone's motor scooter and you have to put petrol in and you have no idea where the petrol tank is. Right? Useless. Excel. Learn basic formulae. For example, in Excel, did you know there's a formula that tells you how many days in the week between the 1st of January and the 31st of December? It'll say 365 days. That's great. There's another formula that tells you how many work days there are, and it can take account of public holidays. And it'll come back and go, there are 221 work days. Right? There are basic formulas. Learn basic formulas. Learn to connect different spreadsheets. Learn to hide them and unhide them. Learn how to get out of circular arguments. There's nothing worse than opening a document and it's got a circular argument in it and you don't know how to get out of it. It's horrible. Visio, if you have Visio, not everyone has it. It's a Microsoft product, but it's not a standard one. Learn how to do Visio. Activity diagrams. Has anyone ever built one of those? That's swim lanes. Have you ever tried to move something from one swim lane to another? It's a nightmare. The whole diagram goes bizarre. Then, just to make your life more miserable, Microsoft have a button that says auto-allocate objects. And you push it, and now your whole diagram looks nothing like anything. It just auto-allocates everything. Right? Then you have to go and move them all back again. It's a nightmare. Learn layering. Layering is the ability to hide and unhide objects in the same diagram. So these are simple. So I'm saying they're a bit more advanced, but if you're a BA using these tools, you should at least master this level. PowerPoint. Learn to make a PowerPoint. Okay, this is a PowerPoint. Each slide has one and only one PowerPoint. Each thing I talk about is one and only one thing. That's a PowerPoint. Yes, that is not a PowerPoint because I put 5 things on one of them. Even though it's a PowerPoint, people tend to put too much in a PowerPoint. They put animation and they put graphics, right? And they have fonting and they have this. What the hell for? Right? Just keep it fairly basic. I only use 2 or 3 colours. Anything more than 5 colours, you're doomed. Why do I add pictures? I don't know, there's white space, fill it up. PowerPoint, into PowerPoint, not to stick everything in a PowerPoint. Right? Just keep PowerPoint simple. And of course, learn to use email and Skype. Become a master of the tool. So one of the things I like to ask my BAs is words about, do you know how to version Excel? People go, I can version Word, I can version PowerPoint. And then they go, how do I version Excel? I go, isn't that a good question? To which I'm not going to give an answer. Develop personal skills. So, invariably, projects are in a domain. Try and learn about the domain. In your skills, all your life as a BA, you will only ever master 2 domains. And you will come across at least one domain you just don't get. Doesn't matter how much you work in it, you just don't understand it. right? And there are tears and there's weeping and gnashing your teeth and you're up late. You just don't get it. Okay, except there will be one domain your brain just doesn't understand. It could be animals, it could be finance, it could be health, it could be superannuation, it could be insurance. But except you're not going to understand them all. But there will be two, and you'll start to do it and go, this is pretty basic, this is simple. The BA next to you is in tears going, I don't get it. You know, I don't understand how you can't get it. This is easy. Because you just have an affinity for that domain. It might be the first time you've ever worked on it. You go, oh, I didn't find that too difficult. Then the next project, you're in the same position of crying. Because you just don't get it. So recognise you're not going to master all the areas of all the businesses. You'll probably have two that you'll be excellent in. And you'll have one that you do not want to go near. Right, you just don't get it. But the art of knowing that is when you recognise what you can't do, call it out. Don't try and fumble through a project where you don't get it. And you'll know within the first 4 weeks of that project, I do not get that industry, I don't get it. I just don't get it. And everyone else is going, this is easy. Right? That's what happens. Okay? But you will master at least 2 of them. To master 3 or 4 is unusual. Right? That is not common. Learn business principles. Okay? People think business is about making money. Business is not about making money. Business is about doing business. The way you do business makes money. You do it poorly, you won't make money. You do it well, you make money. Understand what are the principles behind it. Oh, sorry, there's no secret answer. It depends what industry you're in. Right. Learn to lead teams in facilitation, getting requirements. Learn to be the chairman of the agenda and having 6 or 7 people or different customers. Learn to control that. As you get senior, you have to run these sessions. Right? The PM isn't going to run them. You have to run them. It's you responsible for the requirements. Learn to negotiate. You've got conflicting requirements. You've got different views. As you get older, you're expected to resolve that. You're an extension of the customer's thinking. What will the customer do? He's expecting you to do the same thing. Problem-solving skills. BAs are not logical people. Developers are not logical people. Testers are logical people. What do I mean by that? They learn the art of the systems thinking. Systems thinking is they follow the same process. They repeat the same way they do something. Right? They repeat it and repeat it and repeat it till they're very good at it. That is not logical. That's systems thinking. They know what works and they repeat what works and they keep repeating it. Drawing a process map is systems thinking. It's not logical thinking. But we won't go into that now. Now, this is where BAs come unstuck. Okay? Understand you're a paid professional. That means you have to make decisions. Learn to make decisions. Learn to call it. PMs, they call things all the time. They learn the art of calling something and getting it right. You have to learn the art as a BA of calling something and then confirming it with the customer. Is it petrol or is it diesel? Call one of them and ask them. Right? Make a decision. You cannot be a BA and not make decisions. Every time you decide to write a Word doc or draw a diagram or make a PowerPoint or whatever, that is a decision. Right? You need to call the decision. Can't be running to the PM saying, what do you think I should do here? What do you think I should do here? You're not a child, you're a paid professional. Call it. Make the decision. That is one of the areas BAs are very bad at. We don't like making decisions because we are trained to go to the customer to get the information. Always confirm it with the customer. It's their call. And now I'm telling you to make a decision. Yeah, not necessarily on the requirement, how are you going to document it? When are you going to stop? So when do you stop drawing or writing a use case? Most people stop the day before the system goes live. But here's a story. That's easy. What's hard is analysing the user story when you find there's a whole lot more underneath it. Make the decision. Know when to stop. Mastering communication. So, this system's thinking down there. Sorry. And be creative. We are very creative people. BAs are very creative, which is a great benefit and a great problem. A bored BA who's got nothing to do is a problem because they become creative about bad things. Okay, so keep BAs busy. Right. So that was dealing with what you must know. And then I'll touch on this one. Train in company. Certifying collaboration. Okay, what does that mean? So you know there's certification BAs can sit, international certifications that you can sit, you can be a qualified BA. To give you an idea, in Australia, a qualified BA is worth 30 to 50,000 Australian a year, more than an unqualified one. In the US, it's between $20,000 and $30,000 US a year. So qualification has a value. It's not like a motorbike license, right? Everyone's got one, so what? No, these qualifications are worth money, and they're worth a lot of money. So, train. Companies should create their own training program. So remember me saying there isn't really a training program, you just throw them in a project. But you can have a training course. What's the best way to do an activity diagram? How do you teach your staff to negotiate? How do you teach them conflict resolution? These are small things companies can create training programs on. Right? How do I teach a BA to ask questions in an interview? Right? You can teach people. These are all skills. We weren't born with them. We learn them. If you can learn it, it's a skill. If it's a skill, it can be taught. Right? So, what you find in a lot of places, new BAs, some of those things, those 8 techniques I put up, you have training courses on how they do those 8 techniques. Then as they step up another level, there are different techniques they're expected to learn. And as they step up, there are different levels. Right? And the reason I mentioned IIBA there is because worldwide they seem to dominate and understand what the BA levels are. They have a document, a book out, which you can follow. But certification by collaboration. What happened in Melbourne when you could get certified? This is back in 2000. Companies thought they would get their BAs certified. The problem was there aren't enough people to run a course. So what we did in Melbourne, we then went round, a bit like the technology park, we went round to all the big companies, about 30 of them, and said, why would you do your own? Let's collaborate and come up with a program that doesn't matter what company you're in, we follow the same program, the same training, the same education, and anyone from any company can go to any other company's training program. Right? So we engage that. Melbourne has, in fact Australia now has, the second highest number of certified BAs in the world. The US has the most, and then us. Because by a company, you might get 1 or 2 people a year, 3 or 4. And what happens if you leave your company? You're probably going to go to another company as a BA. Wouldn't it be good if they also consistently practiced the same thing? So if I'm a Java developer and I leave and I go to another company, I bet Java developing looks the same. Okay? They're not going to do Java development any different. And if I'm a PM, whether I'm Prince 2 or PMP, I go to another company, project management is exactly the same. Right? The principles don't change. So why would I bother to run a program in one company, then you go to another company, this is BAs, and they have a totally different training program? It doesn't make sense. Because today, what is your client could be my client tomorrow. Right? Now the client's getting inconsistencies. But in the US, Australia, now in Europe, the BA practice is becoming very consistent. So if you come out to Australia, whether it's Sydney, Queensland, Melbourne, the way the BAs practice is almost exactly the same right across Australia. Right? The only thing that differs is the domain. So when you're asked to do a process map in Melbourne or Sydney or Brisbane, it is exactly the same. So we've removed this confusion and we've got common training ground. What I'm suggesting for you guys in the training part, not TMA have its own one and FPT have its own one and Larson have its own one. Don't do that. Create a BA community where you get together and agree what the training programs look like. And if we come up with one on process modelling, we share it with all the other companies. And if you come up with one on better interviewing, you share it with the other companies. Now, in the business world, that sounds absolutely alien. Whoa, I'm not going to share any of my business ideas with you people. But in fact, it's a profession. We're sharing, not company. This is not a company thing. This is a professional thing, right? For which every company benefits equally, right? So we're not stealing an IP from a company. We're making the people who work there better, and then you earn more money for your company, right? So what I'm suggesting you do, and that model has worked in Australia, it's worked in Germany, it now works in England, and they're working in South Africa. It started in Canada. America didn't start off with this model. They all did their own little thing, and it took years before finally they came together, and then it just took off. So imagine if you have a common program that's published amongst all of the technology part, where you can go to these different courses. Today it's here, tomorrow it's up there, next day it's at SMS, next day it's someone else. Right? That's the only way you're going to get certification quickly and efficiently. Right? Because if you just do it internally, right? In my family, I'm famous. Outside of my family, no one's heard of me. Right? You want to be famous amongst the park. Right? And finally, best tips. Okay. BAs who work for me will get flogged every Friday if they have not put their work in their calendar. A BA who doesn't write in the calendar what they're doing is not doing anything. Why do I say that? Because you need to start to learn how long something takes. You can't work on one thing for the whole day. A productive day for a BA is about 6 hours. But you turn up for 8, sometimes 9. But you're only actually going to work about 6 of them. Because the brain gets tired. Right? But you're not going to do the same thing. So break it down into 1 or 2 hour slots. Start to put your meetings in. Because there's nothing worse than saying, didn't you have a meeting with a customer the other week? What day was that? And you go, yeah, not sure. Go and look at your calendar. Look back when things are. So when I'm told I have to deliver something by a certain date, I put the date in my calendar and I work backwards. Right, so I make sure that date isn't my delivery date, it's probably a week earlier, if I have that much time. But when I suddenly come on and say, right, stop what you're doing, I need you to come and help this project. What is it you're going to stop? Right? Why should you come and do that? You should be able to say, well, I can't stop and come and do it. Here's my work. And I go, oh, okay, well then I'll get you to come and do it. Right? Have it in your calendar. If you don't, you'll get overloaded. You won't be able to measure what you've done, and then you can't estimate. You won't learn how long something takes. Always use your calendar. That is the only source of anything you have ever done. Because you don't own those documents. They go to a central server that belongs to the project. But what have you done? So at the end of the year, we're up for pay rises. Okay, tell me what you did. I worked on this project. Yeah, no, that's where you were. But what did you do? You can use your calendar. I do interviews. I wrote documents. I did process modeling. You can start to see what you've done. Practice a known methodology. So this comes back to the thing we were talking about before about putting training programs in place. Learn to systematise what you do. Learn from the best. Ask a question. Here we go. Here's some questions. The best questions in Vietnamese are 10 words or less. In English, we say it's 6 words or less. Okay? Easy one. What are you doing tonight? What are you working on? What happened on the weekend? Do you want to come to the movies with me? You're free to have lunch. All the important questions are very short. The longer the question, the less the person asking understands the question, therefore the less the person hearing it understands, and the answer you get is going to confuse you. A question is one question, right? It's one question. What are you doing later? What do you want for lunch? Not, what are you doing later? And if you are free, do you want coffee or tea? And do you want it at the coffee shop or down there? That's 3 questions. So if she goes, yes, what's she saying yes to? And be careful of your question. Would you like to come out with me or not? And she goes, yes. Is she coming out with me or not? Right? Be very clear. Ask one question. One question only. But ask the question you want the answer to. Okay? So I'm not going to say to her, what are you doing later? If I want to go out with her, I go, would you like to come out with me? And she's going to go, yes, no. Okay? Or she might go, maybe. In which case, I'm no better off. But don't beat around. I'm not saying to ask all the girls out. What I'm saying is, when you ask the customer one question for which you get one answer, keep the question short. Okay? All the important questions are short questions. They're not long questions. Right? And the question is, do I now know the answer? Is she coming out with me or not? Is he coming to lunch with me or not? Do I know the answer? Yep.
I have a question to you. But sometimes...
What, you did want to go out with me?
Yeah, and you said that the short question is better, but sometimes for the get no question, the person who answered the question don't know why they say yes or don't know why they say no.
Correct. So a question may have to have context. Okay? You have to give a context to it. Look, I'm married, I don't know Vietnam, I can't order food, can you come to tea with me tonight? Okay, that's a whole different context, right? So by all means, often context matters, and sometimes you have to send the context to the client ahead of the meeting. But at the end of the day, the meeting is, and you're right, the client may misunderstand it. That's okay, they're allowed to. You don't know they've misunderstood it. You document it, you draw models, you create diagrams, and someone goes, that's wrong. And you go, they said yes. And they'll go, no, I didn't. No, what I meant was, okay, that's fine. Don't get hung on it, change it, move on. But put context in it. Yep, just don't ask the question, because they won't know. But when you get to the question, make it short. Right? You have to be clear, you have the answer. And questions without context are just, ambiguous. They don't serve the value. You're absolutely correct about context. Learn to speak English. If you're going to work with English clients, okay? So, speak with us more by Skype, because me standing here talking, right, what you're hearing is only about a third. What you're seeing is body language. What you're seeing is my expression, right? You're also reading at the same time. So what I'm saying is only a third of what you're getting. You're picking up reading and you're picking up body language. But when you're on the telephone, there may be no reading and there's no body language. So suddenly, it becomes harder to hear them. And telephone and Skype, right? And I hate it when I ring up a development centre. It's like ringing a call centre. There's like 20 people in the background. And this person, yeah, very nice. And you hear all these people in the background and music. I hate it. Right? So, learn to listen and speak more. So, shut down the background noise. You can't do it yourself. You tell them to do it. But start to practice talking over telephones. Because people sound different and it's harder to hear. Your understanding of English is so much better in person. But if we were doing this over a webinar, most of you would have gone back to work by now. Right? This would have been boring. Practice English more. Practice it more. Only if you work with English. If it's Japan, practice Japanese. If it's Korea, practice Korean. But English is common. Whatever the language is, don't only practice it on the project. Practice it more. You don't own the requirements. They are not yours. This is a big thing about BAs. They think it's their requirements. They are not yours. You're paid to deliver them. Okay? What's right today can change tomorrow. That's how it is. Don't do too much before asking. Do a little bit and say, this is where I am. Do a bit more, this is what I've just drawn the process map. Now I'm going to write some user stories. Then write some, look, I've written 10 or 20 user stories. Now I'm going to write the other 10. Tell people where you're at. Stop running off and hiding and doing all your work at your desk, then producing something, and someone goes, but that's not what we wanted. Okay? This is the right product and the product is right. Same applies to you. Constant communication. Make sure you're on the right track. Tell your boss what you're doing. That's usually a PM or someone like that. Every day on a project, I report to my PM. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I have done. I'm not talking about a stand-up and agile. I'm talking about this is what I'm going to do. Is this still part of your plan? Because this is part of my plan. Okay, communicate. The client does not know the answer. If they knew the answer, BAs wouldn't have a job. Right? They have a job because they don't know. And they want you to go and find out and get it right for them. They actually don't know. How boring would a soccer match be if before the game, the blue team are going to score 3 goals and the red team are going to score 1. Now let's come and watch the game. We already know the outcome. It's not, it's because we don't know the outcome. The customer hires us. So there we go. So just cap off these ones last. Use your calendar. Learn to use it as a fundamental tool for your time. Okay? If there's nothing in your calendar, if I go to my BAs, and I do this often, show me your calendar and it's just white. Team meeting, PM meeting, part meeting. So you've done nothing else. Oh no, I'm busy. Can't see it. Practice methodology. This comes back to our training. Learn to ask simple questions. Learn, practice English, and the requirements are not yours. So with that, any more questions? Okay guys, thank you very much. I'm hanging around so you can come and ask questions anyway. Yes, I will go out with you. Nah, not true.
I have a question. We are now growing up the BA team, so should we get a new grad to train them, hand-on training to become a PA, or we should get experienced people that become a PA?
In truth, the person will find you. You do interviews for BAs and you're going to get some seniors, you're going to get some unexperienced ones and some who want to be ones. That's how they are, you just take them because you can end up getting a senior, but their domain is not an area that you're dealing with. It's the way they think and what they do is what you're buying. Right? It's more like the taxi driver, he knows the way. The BA knows the way. That's what you're buying, right? And so you can teach grads, but you know, depending on their age, you're not trying to recruit people. You put the ad up and you see who comes. Not everyone who comes will be a BA, okay? So you have to make sure you've got the right sort of person. Some grads already know they want to be a BA, most of them don't. Yep. It's unusual to find that. But yeah, that's just how it is. Cool.
We're starting the project. Many project managers don't know how many PA they need and for how long. So you have any term of tip for the project manager to estimate the PA effort for the project?
Yes. So there are two metrics. One is number of people in your team, developers and testers. The ratio is about 1 to 10 to 12 if it's a small project, but then it's about 1 BA per 10. And it also depends on that picture we saw before, how much of the requirements is the customer giving you and how much do you have to work out. So you have to take both of those into account. So when I do proposals, I need a team of 20. I'll go, that's 2 BAs. I don't necessarily consider senior or associate. I don't think about that. Then I look at how much requirement the customer is supplying. The more I have to do, the more senior I want that BA to be. The less I have to do, I'm happy to go for a more junior BA. Right? So that's how I usually work out what sort I want. If the project is just an extension of an existing website and they're adding something on, I might not even need a BA. You know, a small project of 4 to 6 weeks, but any project more than about 4 or 5 months with more than 10 people on, I want a BA on it. Right? If not at all, just to blame them if it goes wrong. But yeah, BAs, that's how I do my working out if I want them or not. But I don't always keep them. If you don't need one, you don't have to keep it. Okay, it's not fill the time available. You can get them part-time. You don't always have to have a full-time one. You might need a full-time one, say a 4-month project. The first 6 weeks, you've got them full-time, then you let one go, then you've got one full-time, and then they drop to say 2 or 3 days a week. Right? Scale your BA. Use them at the front, scale them down. More requirements come, scale them up. Okay? They're not linear like developers or testers. Okay? Just scale them as you need them. Right.
sometimes we say you need 2 months. Customer say no, 1 month is enough, and they pay for 1 month only. So
For a BA?
Yeah.
Yes. The question is how you pay for that. In the sense of, do you want them full-time for 1 month or spread them across 2 months part-time? Yeah, customers are pretty poor at estimating just about everything. The only thing they know for sure is how much money they got. That's the only thing they know, and they always want it tomorrow. So that's stock standard, but yeah, it's just negotiation. If you've only got one for a month, have one for a month. What is a very bad practice is after a month to keep them for nothing to help the project. That is bad practice. What the PM should be doing is telling the customer, right, that they're either going to go or stay, but if they stay on our terms. And if we decide, if the customer said, I'm not going to pay it, we have the option not to have them. But then you tell the customer, this can impact delivery times. Or you can say, well, we'll keep them at our cost, but understand that our resource. So you can play with that resource, but it's usually a bad practice to keep them, because the customer will milk you the next project. Oh, I'll just shut down the testers a bit, and I know they'll keep another tester. And then I'll shut down the developers and I'll keep another developer. So as a customer, I just keep squeezing you because I know you'll keep people on for nothing. Okay, that's a bad outsourcing project. Okay, don't give away your company's human capital. Right, so I would suggest at the end of the month, the BA is off the project. And I will tell the customer that, and I'll tell them the impact. This is the PM I'm talking about, we're telling them. Yep. That's exactly how I do it. It's a business. Okay? You can keep them if you wish, but the customer is more than likely going to try and milk you on something else on another project, if they know you do that.
I have a question. My question is, sorry, I missed the microphone. My question is, how long should the BA stay with the project in the context of the waterfall or agile project development?
Yeah, they're usually driven by cost. So in the case of agile, they should stay with the project till it finishes. In the case of waterfall, they should stay with the project beyond the end of it, because there's a lot of issues that come up afterwards. Whereas agile, you do your small releases, and any bugs can come up and be put into a next sprint, or you can add one. But waterfall, you can't. They're also required, often for training and teaching the client, because they're the only person who actually knows how the whole system works from a customer point of view. So towards the end of a project, a waterfall, they kick them off. Yet this is the one person who can now go to the customer and teach them for UAT, factory testing, all of that. The BA can flip into that role, which is different than a testing role. It teaches them how to use it. So who's going to write the documentation? Right? Who writes documentation for systems? Usually the BA has to do that. We're not technical document writers, but we do have the skill to do that, and we should do that. Right? Because we're the ones who know the system. But yeah, so for waterfall, you should keep them longer. Agile are just part of the team. And when the project's finished, the project's finished. Right? Customer ain't going to pay.
So since we are talking about effort, and let's talk about the evaluation. So how do you tell that your BA is being effective or efficient? Or is there a way to do that? Or
yes, there are ways to do that. Absolutely. In fact, Han and I are just talking about how we measure our ones here in TMA. Yes, you can measure their efficiency and effectiveness. That is possible. You know when they're not effective because the project moans about them. Okay, so you find out failures, but you want to avoid that. So how do you monitor and do them? And today's not a question on how we do that, but there's a process where you can measure, monitor, and advance BAs according to strict criteria and achievements. Yeah? How many hours of interviews have you done? How many process maps have you done? And how do you know you've got it right? How do you do the QA? There's a process to do that, but I haven't touched on that today.
So is it like you have like a KPI for it? Like developer and tester, they have KPI for them, right?
Yeah, that's based on a company view, but there are, I prefer to see competency or professional development standards you want them to reach rather than KPI. So there is a professional and a competency standard that's expected to be reached, right? So for us here at TMA, we have those defined for the various levels at which you can't get promotion without reaching that competency. But it's not per se a KPI in the sense that you're talking about. This is about your professionalism, right? And your ability to perform work. Yeah, you can structure that, and that would be part of when I was talking about certification being park-wide or community-wide, not just company-wide. That's the benefit of having this BA community collaborate, is that you could set that standard across all the companies. Right, so now we can have a common understanding. What is a senior? What is a junior? What is a consultant? You understand what that person can deliver now. Yeah, but yes, and you do measure it. There's a way to measure it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I would like to train the person in the different view. So which is the signal to show that the BA have a problem in the project?
Normally, you start off with mentoring, right? The other signal is you should teach the BA to put their hand up. If they think they're struggling, if they're not sure, if they think they're not going to hit a deadline, they need to learn to ask. And these are grown adults. We're not school kids, right? So the expectation is they will come back. Now, sometimes they think they've done a good job and they haven't, then the PM will come back and tell us. Then we can intervene, but you should have a mentor till they're able to operate on their own and they understand what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Yeah, so there's a coaching program to get them to that basic level. Yeah, you've got to have that in place, otherwise you'll train someone badly and they will continue to do bad practice because no one will correct it. You need to stop it quickly. So thank you, people. It's time to get fed and watered and things like that. I appreciate your time, and to close up I'll just hand back to Hong.